All right, part two of this this letter. Hopefully, if you've taken the time to actually read the letter, if you're a theist and you know nothing, you probably think these questions are great. And how am I ever going to answer these amazing, show-stopping, knockdown proofs that God exists? If you're an atheist or you've taken any time to read this stuff, you're probably laughing still and are just sitting around to find out, what I'm gonna say. So anyway, you probably already figured out the answer yourself. So let's go through them. Again, I'm gonna put it down below. I'm gonna probably do 1 through 7, 1 through 8. I don't know. I haven't planned anything. We'll see how long this takes. So number one, it says most scientists agree that if the Earth was 10% bigger or 10% larger, life on Earth could not exist. Okay, so what does that mean? That means there's a God. So I love, you're going to see an ongoing theme with this particular person, is look how amazing this is. If it wasn't exactly the way it is, then everything would die. Or it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work properly. It's like the fine-tuning of the universe thing. Okay, so here's the point. Yeah, so the only reason we think it's amazing is because we do exist on this planet. Okay, so that's just kind of how it goes. It's like if I take a die and I roll it, and I need to get a 6, and a 6 comes up, we go, oh my God, a 6 came up. I needed a 6. All right, it was a 1 in 6 chance, and that came up. Isn't it amazing? That must have been inspired by God. No, it's just because we put relevance on there. Okay, guess what? There's 8 other planets that don't have life, that are bigger or smaller. So what? Like, so they're less special because they don't because they don't have life on them, which we don't even know. Actually, they found some microbial or they found methane gas on Mars, which is pretty cool. So there might be microbes there. They also, just this past week, they found some exciting things about Europa and the liquid on Europa on the moon. So the point being is, like, just because, yes, humans, we think we're special because we're humans, because it's like, it's us, we're special, all right? Well, guess what? If Jupiter wasn't as big as it was, then that big giant red dot storm wouldn't be able to exist, so therefore God. It's like, well, if you're going to look at what actually happens and say, well, there's a million ways that it couldn't happen, well, it has to have, something has to be there. So if you look at anything, you could be amazed by anything. Like, see, look, I picked up this book. You know how many different things had to come into play to allow me to lift this book, and my muscles and the thoughts and the light for you to see it, and the camera and so look, at that's an act of God. I was able to lift the book. No, you can't just look at what there is and then say, oh, well, see, there's a whole million ways that it couldn't be. I had to be at this library, I had to be this spot and this thing and this camera. So what? So if the Earth was 10% larger, or first of all, 10% of the Earth is a lot of freaking Earth, just so you know. Like, I don't think you really understand how big or small the Earth is. So, it's like 10%. Yeah, 10% is freaking big. It's a lot. That's a lot of metric tons of ground to add or subtract. But who cares? If there was less or more, then there would be different plants or animals on the Earth, or maybe there wouldn't be any plants or animals on the Earth. So what? So that means there's a God, because if there's 10% more Earth, God said in the Bible, please point to me where it says, here's how much metric ton of Earth there is. I would like to see that statistic. And God said, there shall be this much Earth, and therefore that is, and then that was, by the way, I would, if that said that in the Bible, here's how much metric matter or metric tons of Earth there are, and it was even close, maybe to the nearest million metric tons, I'd probably go ahead and say, hey, the Bible is probably correct. But they don't say anything like that. Nothing specific. It's all about, like, mysticism stuff. There might be a city somewhere that's made, and then they name a city after something in the Bible, and I go, look, prophecy. Anyway, so that's number one, ridiculous. Number two, the element of water. Water is the only, capitalized, substance on Earth other than bismuth. He was really, really excited about that. He was like, I wrote bismuth. You probably don't even know what bismuth is. But when frozen, it becomes lighter in liquid form, and so there's earth and water, and there would be no vegetation if water didn't do this. Holy mackerel. So, great. Which point? I don't understand. Like, because, again, this is the same thing as the same as number one. Like, here's a fact, okay, and that means God? No, it just, that's why humans need wood. Isn't it amazing how the elements that create life are also the most popular elements in the universe, okay? Like carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, okay? Well, guess what? That shows up the most in Earth, other than helium in the universe, okay? So the point being is, so what you're saying is that the most common elements, the elements that exist the most, nitrogen, you know, in there a little bit as well. The most common elements in the universe cause we are 98% water and hydrogen and oxygen, and because the elements of water are a certain way, we were able to evolve a certain way because water does this. Like that's, yes, correct. You are correct. Nothing to do with God there. All right. Theory of evolution is a contradiction of the second law of thermodynamics. Ugh. Okay, here. You said I couldn't use Wikipedia, but guess what? I can. I wish you would. The person who wrote this, you know, here, I Wikipedia up, all right? The second law of thermodynamics states that the entropy of an isolated system never decreases. By the way, his whole thing is, where is he? He comes up with all the, again, he's probably reading some creationist nonsense website with coming up with these things, which violates the law of entropy, which states that matter is something that's running downwards and decaying, which is the opposite of what evolution teaches. Okay, well, find me an actual definition that doesn't come from a Christian website, of an actual science thing, that has the words dying and decaying in the definition of the second law of thermodynamics. All right, send me that link, please. Okay, because when I researched and looked up the second law of thermodynamics, nothing said dying and decaying and downwards. It talked about heat, okay, and energy, and so it says, and it also talks about isolated systems. All right, so let me give you a tip. Earth is not an isolated system. There's this thing called the sun that sends lots of energy into the earth all the time, and the sunlight is collected by plants and animals and algae and creates more energy. So you have to have an isolated system in order for your wackadoo second law of thermodynamics. It's amazing how I love how theists look at, like, they cherry pick their Bible and they say, well, I'm going to look over here, but I ain't looking over here. Okay, like he gives me all this science stuff, and yet he wants to believe in talking snake and he wants to use science to debunk science, but then doesn't want to use science to debunk the talking snake and Jonah living in a fish, and you know, all of the languages coming from the Tower of Babel. Or Babel, or where the hell it was, and and then they're going to mess up the science. They're not even going to use the science correctly. So yes, when the Earth becomes a closed system, then the second law of thermodynamics will come into place. But they have to kind of wait till the sun goes away before that happens. So we're gonna move on from that one. Okay, number 4. Oh, the red blood cells. Ooh, I didn't even know this, so I should look it up because I'm just taking his word on it as far as red blood cells. But the red blood, by the way, so we've gone from the size of the Earth, so we've got astronomy and cosmology, okay? He's gotten water and chemistry, okay, in number 2. And number 3, we've got thermodynamics. So we're all over the place. So we got physics, chemistry. So apparently I got to be a biologist. We're back to biology. So red blood cells. You know, this is all, you know, amazing stuff. This guy has studied every single field, apparently, and is a master at everything. So, red blood cells in the human body, the only blood cell in the human that does something unlike every other cell. I only do that because it's capitalized. All right. The red blood cell immediately upon its birth gives up its nucleus, and so it can carry more oxygen and the other cells. And if any other cells give the nucleus, they would die immediately. Okay. Great. That's a nice fact. To read that off of a Snapple cap. Like, so what? What's the point? What does that mean? So because that happens, therefore God? Like that? Like, how do you make the connection between the two? It's like, isn't that so? I guess your syllogism, if I was put it together, it would be red blood cells give up a nuclei unlike any other cell. Isn't that amazing? Would be premise 2. therefore God is premise 3. is that your logical syllogism? That's a good one. I can't argue with that, with the premises or the conclusion of those following those premises. Okay. So here's the thing. Red blood cells giving up their nucleus obviously was a good trait, and obviously animals that had red blood cells that did that were able to carry oxygen to their cells better, and henceforth they were able to survive better than animals that didn't have that trait, or red blood cells that didn't do that. And henceforth red blood cells now exist that give up their nuclei, and that's why animals with that trait, it's advantageous to the environment and to the organism to live in the environment, henceforth evolution. Okay, so you're proving my point with these statements, all right? Not God exists. Unless you have a chapter and verse where it says something about red blood cells give, thou shalt seen thy blood without thy nucleus, henceforth Lord Savior says more oxygen brought to cells, or something along those lines. All right, so number 5, according to an astronomer who I heard, the source of the unknown astronomer. According to an astronomer that I heard, he said that if the amount of matter of the Earth at the creation were either added or subtracted by 10 to the 26th power, so you don't know who said it, but I got the 10 to the 26th power, we cannot have the perfect Earth that we have today. Perfect Earth? What is perfect Earth? Explain that to me. I want to know what perfect Earth means. Is it perfect? How, based upon what? Who would choose that it's perfect? Are you asking the tsunami? People will die in the tsunami about the perfect Earth, or what are you talking about? The people swallowed up in Pompeii, that were by the earthquake. That's the perfect Earth. How is this a perfect Earth? How is it perfect? What is your definition? What does that even mean? So if they subtracted 10 to the 26th power, it wouldn't have a perfect Earth? What are you talking about? This is ridiculous. I'm getting frustrated. I have to stop. I mean, what is that? Anyway. Okay, number 6. So a Big Bang, in quotes, creates the Earth. Okay. Right there, let me stop. All right. The Big Bang happened 13.2.3 billion years ago. Okay. As far as we know, the age of the Earth is 6,000 years. No, I'm sorry. It's 4.5 billion years old. Okay. So the Big Bang that happened 13 billion years ago. Okay. If you want to say that created the Earth, that was 9 billion years later. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of stretching it, it's kind of a stretch to go 9 billion years, the Big Bang created that, but I guess technically it did, evolution, all that kind of stuff. Actually, evolution has nothing to do with that, but the point being is, the Big Bang didn't create the Earth. The Earth got created by a whole bunch of other things happening before the Earth. But anyway, so Big Bang creates the Earth, wrong. And it magically tilts on its axis at 23 degrees. You use the word magically as if that's like it magically does that. Yeah, well, what's your definition? Magic Man did it? Anyway, so it magically turns its axis at 23 degrees, preventing the poles from accumulating large amounts of ice which would melt and flood the Earth. Okay? No, here's what you don't understand, okay? The Earth was not created for people, okay? It's reverse. The Earth has its properties, and because of the properties that happen on Earth, people were able to come out of it, okay? People were able to evolve, and all the things were able to evolve based upon the characteristics of the Earth. So yes, if there was different characteristics of the Earth, the things that grew out of the Earth wouldn't exist in the same way. Just like if Jupiter wasn't as big, it wouldn't have a big fucking dot spinning around on it. It's just so annoying. You're making me curse. It's so stupid. All right. So yes, if things were different, then they wouldn't be the way they are now. Correct. Point taken. All right, I'm tired. I can't. That's as much stupidity as I could do. Maybe I'll do another one. It's taking me. It's just so hard to deal with these mind-bending and unbelievably hard topics. I mean, I've been having to do all this research and stuff, off the top of my head to answer these foolproof definitions of God existing. Anyway, I'll be back with another part later.